Our goal hasn't changed since 2009. We support, promote, engage, and inspire the arts community by igniting the ghost light that shines on the stages of the up-and-coming, the unsung heroes, the brilliant writers, and the dynamic designers. Stay tuned. Rep Radio is on the air. Welcome to Rep Radio. I'm your host, Darnell Radford, and today I am in the lobby at the at Independent Studio on 3 of Walnut Street Theatre, and I'm here with Ibrahim Miari.
Hello, hello.
Whose production In Between is on stage right now. Ibrahim, welcome to Rep Radio.
Thank you so much.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Ibrahim, and I grew up I was born and raised in Israel, and in early 2001, I came to the States for the first time to perform at a festival. And then I had a project a couple years later with a company in San Francisco, which then was developed into a full production, was called Blood Relative. And I was in the States for about 6 months. Went to Canada to work at a summer peace camp, met my wife, and came back to the States and applied to graduate school. I went to Boston University, studied theater education, School of Theater there, and got married, kids, and now I'm here at the Walnut Street Theatre.
And if you are a regular at Walnut Street Theatre, you may remember that you were in the production of The Humans last season.
That was a lot of fun. Yes, I was in The Humans. I played Richard Saad, the boyfriend. Yes.
Yeah. So this production, In Between, tell me about it.
In Between is a very personal piece. It's autobiography, although officially it's semi-autobiography, and the word semi there is just so that I can have an artistic license to change up little things and not commit to the order of events, and just take the essence of each individual story or character that I wanted to highlight my story. But it's a very personal piece. I have experienced everything in the show. Everything that I talk about is sincere, is true. And I'm very proud of it. I've been working on it for a lot of time since I graduated not high school, but graduate school. It's funny. It reminds me of a saying that Picasso once said. He was approached. He was sitting at a restaurant, and he was approached by a client, and the client presented him with a blank piece of paper, and he said, "Can you scribble something?" And he did. It took him like a minute, and then he said, "Well, this will cost you, I don't know, like something like $100." And the guy said, "What? It took you only 5 minutes? Not even?" And he said, "Yeah, 5 minutes in a lifetime." And so I feel like it took me a lifetime to accumulate all these experiences. And having a theater background and worked, in theater for over 20 years now, I am privileged to use the stage as means of expression, and I've always wanted to share my story. I believe that sharing stories can bring people together, can open really people's hearts, and promote empathy and dialogue. And I do that as a mission to really promote dialogue, and especially between Jews and Arabs, or just about the Middle East in general. And the more personal I got with In Between, I felt like it was resonating more with larger audience, and it became kind of, my personal story became a universal story.
There's so many moments in our lives that we've probably told friends and family before, and I would say that those moments are worth writing about. So why this one particularly, and have you written other stories?
Sure. Yeah, so my training as an actor / creator, in Israel, the word for Oman Yotzer, an artist who's also writing her own material, is called a creator. In English it sounds kind of kind of divine, but it is kind of divine that you are creating your own art. My training with the Akko Theater Center. Akko is my hometown. In Arabic it's pronounced Akka. It's a wonderful company where Jews and Arabs work together, not because of ideology, but because we happen to coexist in the same place. And and one of the missions of Akko Theater is to work with the local community and also create original work, original material. So I trained with the founders of the theater, and I was accustomed to talking about personal experiences. Even if I was doing a different character, which is not me, not Ibrahim, somehow I found a way to bring in my personal experience in my true story. So, for example, I played a homeless person, but as the homeless person, in real life I'm not, I talked about my relationship with my father. And that story was true to me, and obviously in the disguise of a character. So I was a part of the ensemble group for about 12 years before I left, until I left, and I wrote a lot of my stuff. Then later on, I wrote a one-woman show for a dear friend of mine. I thought her story was fascinating. She is of Ukrainian descent. She married her Palestinian Israeli husband in Ukraine while he was in graduate school. She moved to Israel, lived in a village, then moved to the city where she encountered Arabs and then Jews, and then she had a hard time, being Ukrainian in the Arabic culture and then in the Israeli culture. So, and then she was an artist too. So that's how we met. Her husband was a theater director. So we were good friends, and I wrote her, with her, but I basically wrote the whole thing. A one-woman show, and it was presented at a one-man show festival, or one-person show, I should say, in Akko, which then became an annual festival we're all proud of, called Masrahid. And I didn't think that I was going to write, a whole play for myself. I always wanted to write, I kept journaling about experiences, because me being in an ensemble group, it wasn't all about me. It was about the story we are all trying to tell. So, and then I realized that I wrote a lot about airport security checks, and being an Israeli citizen does not grant me any discount going through security. In fact, being an Arab citizen in Israel puts me at a higher risk, if that's an expression, that I always get extra treatment from security, and it's whenever I travel alone. So it's no secret that if you're a guy between the ages of 20 to 50, I think, traveling alone, which mostly what I do as an actor, I travel by myself without my family. Then you get pulled aside, and then you get the extra treatment, which is body searched. Your suitcase is wide open. They go through everything. They question you a lot. This process can take 2 to 3 hours. Then you don't have even time to buy even a piece of gum at the duty free, which sucks because I always plan to buy some stuff there. But I always make it to the plane, and this particular experience that the in between play starts with happened to me when they went through my suitcase and my personal backpack, and they went through my notebook. And at the time, I had, like I say in the play, I had just come back from a peace camp, and I worked with Palestinian Israeli youth, and I did theater workshops with them. And at the end of the 2-week process, I knew that I was going to create some kind of a theatrical, not a play, but some scenes that they worked on and that they wanted to share together and all that. So I also wrote a lot of ideas. One of them was somebody had complained how she can't go to school every day because of the checkpoints, and sometimes she feels like she just want to really explode herself. So I wrote that.
Yeah,
you can imagine.
Yeah,
writing that and having a security guard look at. I understand, but I never in my life thought that they would actually read my personal notebook, and it's out of context. I mean, come on. And then other thing was about buying Qassam rockets. At the time, there was part of Israel that was bombed by Qassam rockets from Gaza, and those kids lived in that area, so they complained about they expressed how scared they were and didn't know. They thought all Arabs are terrorists and all that. And that's the whole point of the camp, really, is to put the kids face to face and realize, oh my God, you look just like me. We both like the same music. We have this, similar dreams and hopes and fears. I was scared of you. No, I was scared of you. And then, after 2 hours of talking, they become best friends until they go back, and then the reality hits again, and they can't see each other never again. Anyways, that was a big experience for me because I was interrogated. I was taken to a basement, and it was not just questioning, it was like interrogation. It wasn't warning, like, hey, it was like, what are you planning? Who's your connection kind of thing. Yeah. To then me, kept saying, Google my name. I'm just an actor. Like, what are you talking about? I was a student at the time. It took a while. They kept repeating the same questions. They went over my stuff and yada, yada, yada. But what was interesting about it is that my identity was in question because they couldn't figure out, like, who is this person who speaks Hebrew, fluently, no accent at all, can pass as a Jew, yet, I have an Arabic name and doesn't fit whatever they had in mind for me. And then so I wrote that experience, and I thought one day I'll just come back to it, because I started telling that experience to some people, and every time I told that story, people will be really like mesmerized. It's like, oh my God, and then what? Mm-hmm. It's like nobody could. They wanted to know what happened right away. So I thought, I've got good material here.
And every time you tell the story, there's something organic about it that makes it a little bit more and more engaging.
I hope so.
Yes.
So, and then I let that to rest. And my fiance and I at the time, we were planning our wedding. I moved to Boston because I wanted to build a relationship with her, and then I got to graduate school, and I was ready, and she was ready, and so we started planning our marriage, and we thought, okay, I come from this mixed background, so Judaism is not foreign to me. I grew up in Israel. I have Jewish family. She's Jewish. It's not a big deal if we want to incorporate some Jewish elements in my wedding to honor that side, not only just for her, but also for me.
Yeah.
It's just, I thought it was the right thing to do, because weddings, they're all about the ceremonies, because the real life starts with the day after, we get married. Like, yeah, everybody had fun. They complained about food. The music was great. Now you started live together and as a couple, and so the ceremony was something that we wanted to really include all our family and friends and have them all feel part of our celebration and our joy, and not that we didn't include any. Like, we wanted to include everybody. We didn't want to exclude anybody. And so we approached her parents, and we asked for their blessing. Of course, they gave us their blessing, and with the condition to approach a rabbi. I didn't object that at all, actually, because I thought, okay, but I knew that I'm marrying a Jewish woman, and that's expected. Yeah. And I honestly, why not? Why not? It's like it's nothing contradicting to my philosophy. It's not like I'm erasing any of my Muslimhood, if that's a word, if I approach the rabbi. A lot of people choose civil weddings. It's everybody make it fit to their own lifestyle, I guess. And the rabbi was very interesting. He was very welcoming. He was very supportive, and I think he actually admitted that my loophole was that my mother was Jewish. Otherwise, he would not have agreed to that.
Yeah.
He thought, his mother was Jewish. Even if she converted, he still is considered Jewish. So it was fine for him. But he wanted us to commit to raising Jewish children and commit to keeping a Jewish household, which is ridiculous, because this is telling people
how to live.
Yeah. And I'm not practicing Jew or religious, and my wife is not religious, so we could have said yes, we could have said, but we wanted to be honest, and we said that's not why we're here for. At the time, we also wanted him to maybe help us also get a sheikh or an imam to co-officiate, so that we kind of, bring in both.
Represent all
yes.
sides.
And then he was not in favor of that. He was like, that's too much to ask of me. And we understood. We were like, we're just asking, because it happened. I mean, we know it happened before. We ended up talking to a sheikh in Boston who was not happy at all to hear that we were thinking about him and a rabbi. He knew about the rabbi. He said he was good friends with the rabbi, but that's not something that he does. And that he would marry us if my wife had converted to Islam, which I thought at the time was ridiculous, because according to Islam, a Muslim man can marry non-Muslim woman, but again, even then, the children will be considered Muslims. So there's this kind of condition.
Yeah.
And so we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to do like hush-hush wedding and just like sign the contract. We wanted the big ceremony. We wanted to invite people. So that didn't work. And I remember going back from the rabbi's office. My wife was driving and she was upset. She was crying, and I'm thinking, this would make a great monologue. Really, it will. She was like, "Stop it! Can you stop?" I'm like, "No, but seriously." So I wrote it down, and I wrote the sheikh, and because my wife is practicing Buddhism, which is also mentioned in the show, then we talked, not personally me, but she talked to somebody who was a kind of a Buddhist, a leader in the district, I guess, and he said, well, if you don't want to do the sutras, the chanting, and all the elements that they usually do, then maybe we should consider just different kind of ceremony. And that was like very disappointing to us.
Yeah.
Because we're approaching somebody to bring to us another element and enrich our audience's experience, because she is Buddhist, and so that didn't work. And I, during the rehearsal process, so I accumulated a lot of material, and I figured they all talked about how identity was in the center of everything. It's like you want to have a Jewish wedding, then you need to do this. Like, there was condition. You want a Muslim, then you have to do this. There was a condition. Everybody wanted us to do something to satisfy their philosophy, religion, whatever. And then we thought, who are we, and who are we trying to be, and are we trying to just make people happy, or are we trying to honor our truth, our honesty to each other, and really celebrate our differences, and bring it all together, or reject that all.
Yeah.
So we did it our way,
which ultimately is most important.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting. There, you both expressed this the sense of inclusion by approaching them, and you would think that would weigh into the factoring of whether they could do this for you or not, because it's not like you were forced to go,
right?
Except for, the parents gave the blessing on the condition, but you still went, and you didn't go reluctantly. You went and said, how do you factor this in? How can you factor this into our to the joining of our union?
Right. And
there's still this resistance. It has to be a very specific way.
Yeah.
And there is, you make some interesting points that I don't think a lot of people think of, because we're just like, oh, well, the world is a melting pot, and we should blend and merge and mix, and we'll be more tolerant that way. But there also is this thought of if you forget or dismiss your own culture, you're essentially diluting it and then kind of erasing it over time. And then there's that concern too.
Well, it's as far as Judaism go, it's not just a concern. It's like against the religious rules. It's a Muslim. A Jewish woman or a Jewish man cannot marry. A Jewish man cannot marry a non-Jewish woman, because because it's maternal. So the children go by the mother, and so in order to continue the Jewishness of the family, you need to have a Jewish mother. Just a couple days ago, a very well-known journalist in Israel got married. She's Palestinian Israeli, she would describe herself as an Israeli citizen. She's an Arab. And she just got married to a Jewish guy. He's an actor, very well-known. And you can't imagine the reactions they got from parliament members. There was this guy who tweeted on them, and he shamed them.
How dare you?
Yeah, this is not okay. And of course they got a lot of support too. And it's not something Jews encourage.
Yeah.
I had a rabbi come to my show once. He came up to me at the end and he said, I really enjoyed your performance. I think you have a really great story to share. And let me share with you that as a Jewish man and as a believer, I did not want this to work out for you. I thought it was very honest, and he was very positive all in all. He didn't, come up to me and he cursed at me, or he said, "How dare you?" or we shouldn't let you perform this. In fact, he gave me other phone number of other synagogues, a reference to other synagogues. It's like, your story is important because it opens up a dialogue.
Yeah.
So.
It is interesting. Now here, this space is so intimate, and I guess definitely with opening night, you do have a chance to kind of intermingle. But do you get the opportunity to interact with the audience after the shows?
Here at the Walnut?
Yeah.
Not so much, because by the time I change and go out, 90% of the audience had left.
Is already out.
Yeah, but I have some people waited for me for 20 minutes, half an hour to thank me, and I got some emails through my website and through Facebook, people sharing with me, personal stories like, "Thank you so much. This woman wrote me about her husband, that he's half Chinese and half African, I guess." Yep. And she never really understood the complexity of his background because he never talks about it. But it was through my stories that she was able to really relate to how complex things are in these two cultures. And stories like that, I get some notes from people. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially here in the States for the past. Definitely my whole life, there's definitely been this sort of conversation about interracial relationships. And I never really thought about it anything other than just, oh, you two look different.
Right.
And, but when you add the culture to it, and if there is this serious concern about, a dismissal of culture, it kind of factors in a little bit more of a thought process. But I'm not really certain that everyone who has a disagreement with a intercultural or an interracial relationship are necessarily thinking on those levels. I think a lot of it's sort of a surface surface disagreement, but the fact that you're talking specifically about the cultures and how they are very much involved in this union, that is a conversation that definitely needs to be heard. And there is a way for you to continue to celebrate your culture and still, love who you love.
Yep.
And have your diversity. let's talk about some of the elements of the storytelling that you use here. You're here you have one piece of luggage.
Yep.
Which would be a carry-on.
Yeah.
But inside of that luggage, we're kind of blown away with everything that comes out of it. And there's some puppetry in the piece.
There is.
And talk to me a little bit about that. And your background in puppetry, was it always something you thought about adding?
Actually, no. Well, okay, so I knew that this was going to be a one-man show. Mm-hmm. And I knew that to talk to the audience for over an hour can be a little bit challenging both for me and the audience.
Yeah.
Especially that I knew I was writing it in English and it was meant for English speakers that are not necessarily familiar so much with the cultures that I'm talking about. So it can be a little bit tiring. Mm-hmm. So I thought, as I was writing it, what other elements I can add to it and really bring forth the things that I'm good at, because why not? Because, I'm an actor. I was part of a dance group for many years. I danced. I know how to use my body. I sing a little bit. I did Sufi dancing and sacred dances, which is meditations. I'm a yoga instructor now, so I'm like, my body is my tool basically, and that's when we talk about lesson 1 in acting. What does the actor uses? They use their body, period. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I don't want to stand and talk to the audience. That's not what I want to do. I'm not trained to do that. I'm not interested in that. So for me, throughout the process of working on In Between, was what am I doing first? Always came first to the question, what am I saying? Mm-hmm. So it really forced me to get up and improvise physically, and it allowed me to express with my body, with the props, with transitions. Then music was added, and then I found that incorporating the Sufi dance, because it meant a lot to me. I found that it was pretty much helping me with transitions, and it added really another beautiful layer into the show, with this philosophy of when you do the dance, basically one of the goals is to free yourself from life's conditioning and to just connect with your truth. Mm-hmm. Now, in Sufism, they say connect with the divine. I interpret it as the divine is my truth, my honesty, and it really was very much in line with what I was trying to do. So I incorporated that. Now, the puppet, when I first started In Between, I had hats, only hats. Like, I would take hats out of the suitcase and just hold a hat and do it. And then I thought maybe this was silly. Maybe I should portray the 3 characters. But the more I worked on it, and the more I realized that basically we're saying the same thing. And then I actually wrote the same thing for all the 3 of them. They were just changing hats.
Yeah.
It was just one voice, same concept, same conditions, but different hats.
Yeah.
So
it does make for an interesting visual to show you that all three choices had the same concerns.
Yep, about the kids.
Yeah,
about the kids, and about the sutras, the elements. What we're going to do with the elements. Yeah. It's like that's what makes Buddhism. It's like if you don't keep the elements. Well, now here's the thing. I'm not saying that all rabbis would have acted the same. I'm not saying Judaism is one thing. That's the beauty of Judaism, is that you have so many different interpretations for one thing. I'm saying that particular rabbi that we went to said to us these things.
Mm-hmm.
And the particular sheikh that we went to presented us with these challenges. That is not a comment on Judaism. That is not criticism on Judaism. It's just, now some people say to me, oh, now, just by the way, this puppet is new. I used to use a different puppet with slightly more more looked like a caricature features, like big features, and people would be offended, like, oh my God, how dare he, portray the rabbi with such big nose? And little did they know that 2 seconds later, the same puppet will come up again as the sheikh, and be like, oh, okay, that's fine. Oh, why is it fine all of a sudden? You know what I mean? Like hypocrisy.
This is more of a symbol.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I, if people are offended by a puppet, I mean, perspective people. So the whole play. I have to remind people all the time that this is a theater piece. Mm-hmm. It's not a documentary. It's an artistic expression of a story, and it doesn't have to be literal. It shouldn't be literal. Although the play it's not like too hard to understand it. It's pretty much straightforward. This is the story.
Yeah, but it's based on an experience.
It does, yes, it is. So I love it when people get offended by the puppet, because it says a lot about them. It's like, here's an opportunity for you to sit and listen, and if by the end you can tell me what bothered you, I will listen to you.
Yeah.
But if you stand up and leave as soon as the puppet appears, then the problem is not the puppet. I'm sorry.
I think at first, at least, my thought process was the rabbi is first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as the rabbi comes out, I heard there were some moments that you hear a little bit of a chuckle.
Of course.
That, but was more like a relatable chuckle. It's not a. But then for a second, I was thinking, I wonder if you're giving any thought to what the audience is laughing at in these moments.
Well, I try to insert some jokes there. Yeah. And the rabbi, it's funny, some days he's hilarious. Now, I don't change much of how he says things. I pretty much stick to the text that I wrote. Some people can relate because they can remember their own rabbis, or just this idea of a rabbi saying these things, trying to always be the educator, trying always to be the person who can, encourage and support and give love. And most rabbis are like that. Mm-hmm. And, the particular rabbi we approached was fabulous, like I said. It's just didn't work out.
Yeah. You've been presenting this piece for some time.
9 years now.
9 years. Mm-hmm. Has your family had a chance to experience the piece? And what were some responses?
I did not perform this show in Israel. Not yet, at least. I was invited this last holiday. There's a festival in Akko during Sukkot holiday, but unfortunately I was already booked here, and I also have my day job, so I couldn't go. There was another invitation a couple years ago, but they had a condition that I translate the whole thing into Hebrew, which brought up another question for me. Why Hebrew would be appropriate and why wouldn't it? And I decided that it wouldn't be appropriate for some characters to speak Hebrew. Like why would my dad speak to me in Hebrew? The English, although my dad in real life doesn't really speak English really well, in the show it does work because kind of English is more of a neutral to Arabic and Hebrew, to the conflict, I guess. So I didn't want to translate it. I didn't think it was going to work. And then I was talking to some people about it, and somebody said, well, why don't you say the monologues in Arabic and Hebrew and English? Which I thought, okay, this is something new that I can explore next time I get invited.
Yeah.
So my parents, my mother, God rest her soul, she passed away a couple of years ago. She did see a recording of the show, and I sat with her and I translated as the show was playing. And at the end of it, she smiled and she said, and this is why every time you ask me about how your dad and I met, I didn't tell you, because I knew that you were going to put it in a show. Yeah.
I know. I think everyone who has theater friends and family feels that way.
Yeah.
Especially if you're on the comedic side.
Yeah.
Do not put this into your act.
Yeah. No, my mother was always supportive of my acting and art, and she came to all my shows when I was doing shows in Israel, and she tried to help me as much as possible, even within between. Like, I would call her and ask about my grandmothers and stuff like that. But it was very clear to me that she did not want her story, because it's her story, and I needed to respect that.
Yeah.
About how she and my dad met, not to be included in the show. And to me, it was kind of a mystery. And I heard rumors from my aunt and my grandmother before she passed away. She kind of told me a little bit about what more or less happened. But who am I to just, expose what my mother doesn't want to share?
Yeah.
Like, it's her story. And there's something beautiful about keeping it secret. Like, there's something beautiful because you can say the actual thing, and it's like, oh, okay, and then it becomes gossip. But if you say, I never knew, then it opens up a big door to some imagination. I mean, it's kind of exotic, this Arab man and this young, teenager, they meet, and he's driving around in a red Beetle, which actually he did have red Beetle, listening to the Beatles. It's very sweet, it's very romantic, and it might not have happened the way I imagine it, but there's something beautiful about it that keeps it, mysterious, and that's not the point of the show.
Yeah.
It's really not. So they met, and here I am. I am their son, so that means they got married, and they lived, and they were married until my mom passed, and so that's not the point. So there's this fine line between what's an artistic expression versus what is just gossip.
Yeah.
So
we talked about the puppetry and how the puppetry that's here now is changed from previous iterations of the production. Were there any other elements that have changed over time, and are any changes in, I guess, the societal conversation tweaking this piece as you progress through?
The more I perform the show, the more I fine-tune it. And I'm always sensitive to the current events. So just, recently Israel passed a new law, which is the new nation state law, that declares that Israel state is the state of the Jewish people, which basically says that the 20% Palestinian Israeli that live there are not equal citizens because they're not Jewish. And I've been saying this line forever in my show since I started it, that I'm not Israeli enough because I'm an Arab. And now I've added, it's official now, it's the law. So stuff like that, not major things changed since I started doing the show, Because, you know, when you talk about events of the past, that doesn't change.
Yeah.
But I can still improvise here and there, you know, with other things that I feel that if I'm, and I mostly don't plan those things. I would just be in the moment and be reminded of something, and then I'll say it. But I must say that with this production here at the Walnut, my director and I really worked on each individual scene and transitions, and I'm trying to commit to whatever I wrote, because I can go on and on and on on the stage, and I can improvise a lot, but I'm trying to stick to what I wrote now, because it has this feeling of it's enough. There's no need to add more, and there's no need to push for it, because the story does have a clear beginning, middle, and end, and it does have this, you know, beautiful journey, I think, from where I start and where I end, and there's no need to really add or improvise a lot. But, you know, every now and then there's something happens naturally, then I comment on it. You know, it's not a big deal. Like I'm very comfortable with, you know, breaking the fourth wall, or, you know.
Well, it's an interesting juxtaposition, the journey to getting married,
and the journey of getting released from the security.
Yes, and this whole interrogation process. When you're seeing that, you're just like, I can see earlier on where this was sort of newly presented, where this could have been newly presented on stage, but I'm thinking about it now going, this is still relevant.
Yes.
I know this is new to us, but this is still a relevant topic of discussion. This is very much happening now, and depending on what happens with, with the politics of the day, this becomes more relevant every time. So
absolutely,
when those moments came up, I was just like, yeah. I mean, not that. The worst that's happened to me at the checkpoint is, I forgot that I had liquids in my bag that are just over the amount. So, but in general, that's not. I couldn't even imagine. Like we do have this mindset of getting to the airport 2 hours ahead of time, because you never know how long the checkpoint line is going to be, and you just want to handle delays and whatnot.
For me, it's 3 hours ahead of time.
But and you have to think about that all the time. So you have to add all this space.
Yes.
On both sides of just getting where you need to go.
Yeah.
And that's a everyday part of life. So I think in this piece, there's someone in the audience who did not understand that about your life, or about the lives of many people who share your makeup.
I think for the most part, people do relate to airport experiences. Maybe people didn't go as through such hard check or security check like I did, but people can relate, can understand, or heard stories. I mean, every now and then you read about, especially Israeli airport security, how they interrogate authors and playwrights and artists. Like every now and then, like the last 6 months, I've read like 3 different articles in the New York Times, how they interrogated people and asking them if they ever broke the law and what they think about Israel. Like, whoa, that's not what you do in democracy.
Yeah, just like, I'm gonna be late.
Yeah, so it's very relevant, and I think some people do come up to me in previous shows, not here, and they say, how much of it was true? How much of the interrogation was true? And I say, why do you want to know? I answer them with a question, like, why do you want to know? Does it really matter? Because I already gave you the story. I give you my version of how I felt.
Yeah.
And what I went through. Why do you want to diminish my experience? By asking this question, basically they're saying, well, maybe I exaggerated it. Maybe maybe I misunderstood. Maybe, well, they're just doing their job. Somebody had said that to me. Well, this is what I heard. Well, what are the chances that that an Israeli Jew would explode themselves? I said, well, what are the chances that I would explode myself? Well, you're an Arab. I'm like, great, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for revealing to me that you are a racist and I should be,
and typecasting me.
Yeah, not talking to you right now.
Yeah.
But I did talk to him and I did share with him that imagine that this was a reversal situation where you lived in a country where you were the minority and you were always like a ticking bomb to people. Like, how would you feel? And I said to him, like, I might not know you personally, but I know of you, and I just think about it. Put yourself in other people's shoes, and maybe walk a couple steps.
Yeah, just a couple. I don't know if it's a generational thing, but I would just think a world where everyone was the same would just be boring. I mean, the diversity in culture and just backgrounds is what makes every day and all these interactions that we have with so many different people so exciting and so energizing.
I
because
agree.
It's just like, where are you coming from? I want to know. I mean, especially for me as a reporter, journalist, podcaster, whatever you want to call me, the conversations I have are about discovery. So, but if I already knew what you were going to say,
what's the point?
This would make for an interesting conversation.
So I always say to people, I answer them like, why is it really important for them to know? And in the process of asking, I like try to tell them that you can't just diminish or minimize my experience. And second of all, this was a modified version of what happened. Mm-hmm. So there you go.
Ultimately, the real question is how did those scenes make you feel?
Exactly.
What did they make you think about?
So they made them obviously uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because they felt ashamed. Oh my God, how my country does these things. Yes, they do. It's no secret.
Unpack that on your car ride home.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I know you have to get ready for your show tonight. So I always ask artists, what sort of ignites that fire of what presents that sense of urgency for you as an artist in pieces that you choose to be a part of and stories you choose to tell, and write and create?
It's a beautiful question, and I think if you can find any artist that can say, why a painter paint? Why does a singer sing? And why does an actor act? It's something we have to do. We just must do because I find that it's really a channel for me of self-expression. It's a channel for me to be who I am. And to be able to share that story with other people is a privilege and an honor, and I take that very seriously. And I work really, really hard. I work hard on the writing process and the rehearsals a lot. I am very committed to my piece. And I think it's because I really want people to just, come to the theater. That's step one. Come to the theater because theater is beautiful. It's a mirror of our lives. And in theater, we get to ask questions. So then we can then think about answers. I don't give answers in my piece. It's not about giving answers. It's not about finding peace in the Middle East. I wish I knew how to do that. Mm-hmm. I think the way to peace is, the saying, there's no way to peace. Peace is the way. Theater, for me, is the way to dialogue and bring people together, like I said in the beginning. And there's just this... I just have to do it. I don't know how to explain it. It's just that something that I don't know what else I would do if I couldn't share that on stage.
Just have to.
I just have to.
That's good enough. The production is in between. It is on stage at Independent Studio on 3, and that is between 2 and 4 here at the Walnut Street Theatre. It is running through October 28th, and you can get your tickets by going to Walnut Street Theatre, and that's theatrere.org. Ibrahim Miari, thank you so much.
Oh, pleasure.
For
Thank
taking
you so
the time
much.
and chatting with me and sort of
yeah.
unpacking this a little bit.
It was my pleasure.
You know,
Come
break a
see
leg
it.
tonight's
Thank
run.
you,
Yes,
thank you.
come see it.
Yes, please.
If you are listening to this, you have time. You should get a ticket. Get 2 tickets because theater is more fun with a +1. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Rep Radio continues to be inspired by our community and listeners like you. You can support our work through our fiscal sponsor, Fractured Atlas, and through our Patreon page. Visit repradio.org/donate for more. Stay tuned. You know the rest.